Hey, Chef Jay here. Now we're going to talk about stuffing slash dressing, okay? And the difference between the two. This is another one of my favorite parts of Thanksgiving. I prefer dressing to stuffing. Not really a fan of the texture of stuffing. A lot of people really love stuffing. Really, the only difference between the two is stuffing is cooked inside the bird. Dressing is baked in a pan, which is what we're going to do. So you're going to want a 9x13 pan. Just, nice glass one will do. We'll coat that with some butter. For the recipe, we've got about 2 pounds of bread here. If you've got bread that you want to cut up yourself, that's great. Pretty much any grocery store this time of year is going to have a big old bag of bread like this that you can just kind of bust out and use that for the recipe. We got some onions, some celery. Some people like to put mushrooms, apples, sausage, and other things. Totally fine. You can do that. This is just a really simple. This is Grandma's recipe. So for our seasonings, we've got some thyme, we've got some sage, which are the two primary ones, and a little bit of marjoram. If you've got marjoram, awesome. If you want to get marjoram, cool. If you want to leave it out, that's totally fine as well. I like kind of the flavor that it brings. It's got just kind of a nice buttery, earthy flavor to it that I think works really, really well with this particular recipe. Salt and pepper. Then we got 2 eggs. This may be a little bit unusual if you've made stuffing before, dressing. But 2 eggs, that's going to kind of help lighten things up. And a little bit of baking powder. That's going to, again, help with the leavening and just kind of lighten things up, make it just really awesome. And I've got some celery greens. This is one of those herbs that it gets overlooked a lot. Celery greens have a really awesome flavor to them. And I think just adding that, along with the other herbs and stuff, we'll chop that up and throw that into the recipe as well. It'll add a nice element of flavor as well. We got about 3 cups of chicken stock and our breadcrumbs. So let's get started. First thing you want to do, if you want to toast your breadcrumbs or your chunks of bread, totally do that, okay? Crank your oven up to about 550, spread them out on a sheet tray, give it 2, maybe 3 minutes on the sheet tray. These have been toasted for the most part, so I'm not really going to go back and toast them, but what we're going to do is we're going to start just with our breadcrumb, I keep calling them breadcrumbs, with our bread chunks. We're going to just dump the 3 cups of stock right over the top of it. And the heartier the bread, the better. Like if you buy this stuff at the store, again, totally fine, but it's not going to be very hearty. We're going to make it work though. And then just kind of mix that through. You want to get them moist and mix gently. Like you don't want to break it up any more than you absolutely have to. And we'll let that just kind of hang out for a bit, just like that. Next up, we're going to butter our pan. So the way I like to do this, we're going to use a whole stick of butter in this recipe. So we'll just unwrap half the stick and then just kind of back and forth like we're coloring in a coloring book. Get all the edges, get up on the sides here. Make sure you get those corners good. All the way up to the edge. Like if you're coloring in using sidewalk chalk or something, just color that whole thing in with a stick of butter. Alright, I'm pretty happy with the coverage there. Then we're going to take the rest of the butter, pop it into our pan here over about a medium-high heat. And what we're going to do is we're going to saute our onions and our celery together. Then we'll add in our herbs, and we'll mix that in with this. We'll let that set for just a minute. Then we'll whisk our eggs together with the baking powder, fold that in, and then we'll put it in the pan and roast it. We'll chop up those celery greens while we're waiting for the pan to get hot. Just once through is fine. Just get some nice leafy greens to go in there. Okay, so we've got our butter melting over the stove here. I'm actually going to brown this because brown butter has an awesome flavor to it. Once the butter melts, it'll start to foam like this. And we really want to kind of keep an eye on it. We just want to get it to a nice toasty color, like a kind of a caramel color. So just let it kind of foam a little bit. And then you can see that darkness, as it's starting to get that, oh, see, beautiful right there. There it is. We'll let that go just a little bit longer. Come up through the middle again. Not quite. You can see it's got a nice dark rich color to it. We're gonna let it go just a little bit longer, and I think we're there. Yeah, right there. You can see that caramel color through the foam. Let me move that foam out of the way. You see that nice rich color. That's what we're talking about. So we're gonna add our celery and our onions to that. Turn our heat down to about a medium. And we'll just saute those in some brown butter until they're nice and tender. Now, as they bake, they're gonna get even more tender. We want them to get them to kind of sweat out, release their juices, and just concentrate their flavors a little bit. So we'll saute them in this just a little bit. And then we'll add our seasonings. In fact, we'll add our salt right now. That'll help pull some of the moisture out and concentrate those flavors. And our pepper as well. The herbs, we're gonna wait just a minute because we don't want to scorch them, and this is still pretty hot. All right, so while the vegetables are sauteing, let's get our eggs ready. We're just gonna do 2 eggs. We're gonna kind of whisk those together, get them all nice lemony yellow color. Then we'll add our baking powder to that. Whisk that in. Get that really well incorporated. All right, and that's ready to go in as well now. Okay, so our vegetables are just on the verge of tenderness here, which is perfect. We're gonna add our herbs. So we'll start with our celery greens. Throw those in there. Then we'll add our thyme, our sage, and our marjoram. That all together. Now this mixture right here is where most of the flavor is coming from in the dressing. We'll just saute that just for about 1 minute so the herbs can kind of release their flavors and everything kind of come together. You'll smell it. Like as soon as you smell that, all the herbs just kind of hit you in the face. It's a beautiful thing. That's when you know you're done. So we'll turn that off. Come over to our bowl here. Add all that in. And then I'm going to give it just like 2 or 3 just gentle stirs just to kind of get that mixed in. Again, you don't want to break the bread up too much. You want some texture to it. And that's about as much as I'm going to do that right there. And then we're going to add our egg. I'll incorporate that in as well. Once you feel like that's all kind of mixed through thoroughly, we're going to go ahead and put it in the pan. Just kind of spread that out. There's no need to like mash it down or anything. Just kind of make sure it spreads in the pan. And then all this onion and stuff that's left in the bowl, you want to get that out. That's just flavor waiting to happen. So you're going to scrape that out and put that on top. All right, so we're actually going to put this in the oven about 425. Now that's hotter than you cook a lot of things. Most people get nervous at anything over about 350 degrees. 425 is going to give us a nice golden toast on the top and still cook everything through. So we're cooking hotter and faster. So 425 for about 15 to 20 minutes. Kind of keep an eye on it. You know, when it gets to that 15-minute mark, just kind of see how toasty it is. And a lot of it depends on how toasty you like it too. Like some people like a lot more crust on top and like a lot darker. Some people not as much. So just somewhere in that 15 to 20 minute range, and that's what you're gonna go for. So we'll pop it in the oven here. is stuffing, dressing, whatever you want to call it. In fact, I'm gonna snitch that toasty piece right there. Oh, just like Grandma used to make. Savor the day.